Welcome back to Casino Guitars. Jonathan here, and I have lots of pedals in front of me. So these are actually both my own personal pedal boards, and we're going to talk about why you might need two pedal boards. So jumping right in, I've never had two pedal boards until really recently. Most of my gigging sort of professional playing life, I usually had a board about this size, and it was just my do everything. I've almost always played, Fender sort of clean amps. I like to sort of gain stage, so multiple overdrives. And the idea was always playing cover gigs. You might need lots of sounds, playing church stuff. You need ambient stuff, so lots of delay, lots of reverb, lots of overdrive, and that's kind of the deal. Recently, I've sort of stopped keeping everything on one board. I've gotten extra pedals, and I was always that way playing as well. Like, if I got a new pedal, I usually sold pedals, and I generally, what was on my board was what I had. Last few years, maybe slightly longer than that, I've started accumulating pedals. So when I realized I had enough to make a second board, I made like a solo acoustic board. Where when I would play solo, I'd have a looper and stuff that could work for acoustic or electric. And that, that's how I do my like brewery solo gig kind of stuff. Not long ago, I was playing with my M80, my Magnetone, which is a dirty amp. And I realized that this setup just didn't work with it super great. I'd hit the overdrives, one like slightly more volume or like a little bit more dirt, and they would just sort of overcompress, or just not give me the push that I wanted. And I started thinking about it. My whole setup was set up for a clean sort of pedal platform kind of amp. So I kind of ditched the acoustic board idea because the more and more I was playing solo gigs with my Gretsch, and using a little amp, not even a modeler. Who knew? It sounds better. So it's a whole other video. We can talk about that later. But I kind of started thinking, man, what if I just had a board that was optimized for a clean amp, for when I use my Tri-Lighter, or like the little Supro or something, and then a board that was optimized for a dirty amp. And it's probably the best decision I have ever made tone-wise. And I'm going to talk you through my thought process on that. It's actually pretty simple. And while my board's here, I'll sort of talk you through, what's on there. So anyways, basically, my thought was I needed a board for the M80 that I could throw some stuff in the effects loop, and then have mostly boosts or fuzz for my dirt section, because I don't really need to add the character overdrive. Like the M80 drives itself, right? It already is dirty, has a master volume. So I either want to just like get a bump, a little more hair, a little more what the amp is already doing, or fuzz, which I think sounds way better into a dirty amp. I think that's probably the prevailing wisdom anyways. I think for years when I hated fuzz pedals, it was because I was putting them into these sort of pristinely clean kind of Fender pedal platform amps when I needed them to either be, something that's edge breakup or whatever. But anyways, again, another video. So let's start over here with my normal board for clean stuff. It's probably more typical of what I've always had. And I'll do the signal chain for you too of how I like it. So starting up here, got the little Polytune Mini 2. I love that you can turn them sideways on one rail of the pedal train, and it just fits. Going into an RMC picture wah, awesome wah pedal. Going into this thing, that's fantastic. There's obviously a lot of pedals here. This thing is always on buffer, but there's also a boost built in that obviously you control with the foot switch, and a high cut and like a low cut filter that you can decide whether they only work when the boost is on or they work all the time. That's by Pettyjohn Electronics. It's called the Lift. I've had it so long you can tell the faceplate's worn off. They make a new version of it. It looks different, but I think it's similar functionality. That pedal's awesome because when I plug in to this board with that pedal, my amp still sounds like I'm plugging straight into it. So that's pretty fantastic. Going into the SP compressor from Exotic, had that forever. Then going into my overdrive section. So this is the Aegis from Tontuga FX. Awesome pedal. Does sort of really smooth, almost like Dumbly overdrive on this side. This side's a little more like a broken up kind of Fender sort of deluxe kind of thing. Sounds great with both of them on. Really good for sort of like medium kind of gain, lead sort of stuff. Everybody probably recognizes this thing, the Brown Protein. Maybe one of the best overdrives I've ever had. But even on there, if you read on their website, it says it was designed for a clean amp. And it sounds, to me, way better going into a clean amp. Now, I can stack. That's like having 4 overdrives right there. And you know, the Brown, one side is like a Blues Breaker. The other side is supposed to be like a Nobles ODR1. Just obviously slightly tweaked. It sounds great together. But these sound great in almost any combination. So when I'm getting all my overdrive from pedals, it gives me lots of different options, you know, that you know, I could have any one of these on, or any 2, or any 3, and occasionally I will turn on all 4 if I'm feeling crazy. Red Llama, kind of fuzzy, almost Tweedy-like pedal from Way Huge. One of the best sort of cheaper overdrives in my opinion. But that's my dirt section, you know, and like I said, I just like to be able to stack overdrives and gain stage if I'm using a clean amp or I'm at like lower volumes. So that does it. But that stuff into my M80 honestly kind of sucks. It just doesn't sound good. It just doesn't. And I probably could tweak it, right? But I don't know. I'm not a knob turner. I like to sort of set them and forget about it. So the idea of having to change the settings every time I switch amps wouldn't be the end of the world, obviously. Talking about, you know, first world problems, I suppose. But I don't know. I sort of got tired of doing that, and I wouldn't do it often. And then I'd get to a gig, decide to use the M80, and it just wouldn't sound great. So quickly up here, MD200 for any sort of modulation you could need. I mostly use the rotary and the tremolo. I use a phaser for a few things. I think the little overtone setting is awesome because it sounds like an organ. I can't say enough good things about how useful that pedal is and how good I think it sounds. I know some people complain about the Boss stuff. I think it's awesome. I've had this Fotape Echo forever from Wampler. One of my favorite delays. This is the Delphine from Tontuga FX. Basically, like 2 more tape delays. I don't know. Sometimes I don't like presets because I don't like menus. So that's like having 3 different tape delays that I can just set to different things and switch through. This one's got a tap. This one doesn't. And then the Dispatch Master is probably the best little simple like delay reverb combo ever. So that's my clean sort of board. Now this one I just sort of threw together for the M80, but man, it makes it so much simpler. It sounds so much better. Because I'd find myself not stepping on overdrives with the M80, which is probably not a bad thing. But I did, by the way. I just bought this, so I didn't have to switch the wahs out. This is the Crybaby Junior from Dunlop, and you can see, man, that it is sort of like the perfect. I don't think I could use the little mini wahs. They're like that big, but this one's a little bigger, and it kind of fits perfectly on a pedal train board. It's not Velcro down yet because I just got it. But same thing, same tuner, Polytune Mini 2. It'll be going into that. I like that the jacks are top mounted on that too. So if you're looking for a new wah for your pedal board, it's a good option. Then on this one, this is the Pettyjohn Petty Drive. Now, I don't know if they make that anymore, but what's cool about that pedal, and you could do, if you were doing a dirty board, you could do this with any pedal like this. It's got sort of the little switches for the different clipping diodes, and you can put them both in the middle and it takes the diodes out. Basically makes both sides of this a boosts. So I've got 2 flavors of boosts that I can hit the M80 with that are just going to kind of pump it up, not really getting any drive or very little drive from the actual pedal. And then this thing is like a combination fuzz and like a rat style distortion that you can blend together. Also from Pettyjohn, called the Fuse, killer pedal. That works great with the M80 because it's, you know, gives it a different flavor of the dirt It's fuzzy, obviously. Modulation from the Astra. You can tell I got it wet because it's all stained. And then going into another Delphine. Obviously, that's a great pedal because I liked it enough to have two. The Aquapus, I almost use like a reverb. It's just really like sort of mild slap back kind of setting. And then sometimes I switch that looper out. Most of the time when I'm not playing a solo gig, I switch that looper out for an Earthquake device. Earthquake devices. Ledges, the new one, the new reverb. But so there you go. So and then sometimes I run this top row in the effects loop. Everything else is in front of the amp. But it just gives me a totally different vibe with the M80. You know, it gives me the push I want. Things don't overcompress. Yeah, and totally overall a lot happier. So if you are using multiple amps and you've got, and maybe this is obvious to everyone but me, maybe I'm late to the party, but it just occurred to me that, you know, for my clean pedal platform amps, I need one setup. For my dirty amps, I sort of need another setup. I don't like switching pedals off. I think that's when your cables start to fail and all the things go bad and whatever. So now I just have two pedal boards that I can grab depending on which amp I want to use. And yeah, let me know what you guys think in the comments. Do you run one board? Do you have tons of pedals that you put together on a board when you're ready for a gig? Do you keep 2 boards or 3 boards or 5 boards? What do you do? But anyways, there's my setup. Hopefully you found that interesting. Hit like, hit subscribe. Don't forget to push the bell so you don't miss videos in the future. Let us know if you found this interesting and you want to see more stuff like this with our gear in the future. Thanks so much. See you next time.